Hey everyone, welcome to the Parent Resource Group from Awakenings Counseling. I'm Emily Gary, and this is the fourth week of the group where I'm talking about coping skills once again. I talked about coping skills last week, and I've got more to bring to you this week. So, thinking about coping skills, the reason that we use coping skills or that we try to teach kids coping skills is to help them to manage emotions in difficult situations. And something to keep in mind when helping them with these coping skills is they can be just sort of the, first step in managing emotions and then handling a situation, or they can be the way that a situation is handled. And it kind of depends on what it is that is causing them to be upset. Is it a situation where they have the power to change whatever is happening, or is it a situation where they don't have that power and they just have to work on being able to handle it and accept it for what it is? And so I'll talk a little bit more about that towards the end of things today, but I just want to bring that up as, something to keep in mind is that, not only can you help them with learning about using coping skills, but if it is a situation where they can change things, then there is, sort of a next step for you in how to help them with whatever it is. First thing that I want to talk about today in terms of helping kids to cope with whatever's going on with them and helping them to calm down in the moment is just a simple counting to 10. Just doing that in different ways to get them to slow down with whatever it is that's upsetting them in the moment and getting them to just take a little bit of time to try to calm themselves before reacting to a situation. And so there's a couple of different ways that I like to do this with kids just to get them out of their heads, out of whatever's going on. It's very similar to the breathing techniques that we talked about last week, where it's trying to get them to focus on the moment, like whatever's going on in the present, rather than whatever it is that's upsetting them. So a couple of different ways that you can encourage them to try to calm down by counting to 10 are ones where they're using other senses as well. So the first one would be teaching them how to count to 10 in sign language. So they're actually having to focus on, these hand signals as they're doing it. And something I love about that is that, if you don't know how to count to 10 in sign language already, or if your kid doesn't, then it's a learning experience for both of you. And you get to have that time together, looking it up, being able to learn how to do it. Just kind of like it can be kind of funny, like trying to remember exactly what ones to do and all of that. And so it creates a good parent-child experience in the learning of it, and then later on they can use it as a coping skill. The other one that I like to use is one where they actually count on their fingers, but not your typical, counting like this. It's one where they trace their hands so that they're actually going over and, they have this sort of sensory element to what they're doing, and it gets them to, slow down a little bit as they do it. You want to encourage them to not just go too fast over their hands, but just getting them to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and tracing their hand like that. Pretty simple, but it does get them, it gets them to connect with the sensory. They have these feeling, they're like focusing on the feeling of doing this and what they're doing rather than focusing on whatever it is that is, that's got them upset. So those are some really simple ones, just counting to 10 in different ways. Just like the breathing techniques, it's one that if you encourage them to do it at times that they're already calm and help them to just have that practice down, then it's a lot easier to get them to do it at times that they're upset as well, because it's a lot harder to get them to all of a sudden do a new activity as they're already upset about something, and they'll likely feel like you're just not listening and get more frustrated in that way. So just, practice it with them at other times and let them know why it is you're practicing it so that they understand why it is that you're encouraging them to do that when they are feeling upset. So, that's thing number 1 for today, just counting to 10 as something's upsetting. And then after that, talking it out, making a plan, seeing, what's the next step for handling whatever situation it is. Something else that I think is a really fun activity to do, and this is going to be a little bit different today because I'm not actually doing the activity here on the video. I just want to tell you about it. But it's making a stress ball, and you can make stress balls for super cheap. and use things that are mostly around your house in order to be able to do that. And, then kids have them as something that they can squeeze when they're angry. Very similar to having that calm down bottle that they would swirl and watch it settle. The stress ball is a sensory thing that they're able to use to help themselves, take it out on something when they're feeling upset. So the way that I like to make stress balls with kids, what you're going to need for it would be, first of all, a funnel, or else things are going to get really messy and not be very effective. A funnel, some balloons, even just one balloon. You want to make sure that it's the kind that are more of the party balloons that are a little bit thicker rather than like not just like a cheap water balloon or anything like that, because these could break if they were really thin, and you don't want that because it'll make a mess. So funnel, balloons, and then I recommend using flour. I think that has the best feel to it. But I've also at times used things like lentils or other dry beans or beads, and those work pretty well as well. It's a different sensory experience based on whatever material it is that you use in there. And you can mix them as well. Like I've also done lentils as well as flour so that there's like some bumpy and then some kind of soft squishiness to it. And it's fairly simple. What you're doing is you are, first of all, you want to make sure that you stretch the balloon out a little bit, like just blow into it to get it stretchy, and then let the air out, and then put the funnel in there and just dump flour or beans or whatever it is that you're using to stuff the stress ball. It can be a little bit difficult to get it to go in there and like actually start to swell up a little bit. So continue to stretch the balloon as you're doing it. And let's think, I guess you can use like a pencil or something to help also to like shove materials in there. And then it's really simple. You just tie the balloon off and, wait till it's like probably hand size for kids. But yeah, tie the balloon off and there you have a homemade stress ball. And you can also get them to draw faces on the stress ball, like on the balloon, before they start stuffing the stress ball or afterwards, so that they have that as sort of a little, emotion face that they can use with it as well. But it's really fun. Kids really like to make these, make this as a craft and then be able to use it afterwards. And, if you want to make a few different ones and let them test, which ones they like the best, then you can do that. Final idea for an activity today is making a calm down kit. And so talking about the stress ball can actually go into what would be a larger calm down kit that kids have as just sort of like an emergency preparedness like toolbox for themselves for when they feel upset. And so in the calm down kit, you put things that would help them feel calm at times that they're feeling upset. So that could be things like, something that smells good, like if they have a favorite, scented soap or something with essential oils on it, like even just like a cloth with essential oils that they like, or, a sachet with like lavender or something, just something that smells good that they can kind of, take those deep breaths and smell it and have that to calm down with. Coloring books, especially those ones that are the, specifically designed to help people with anxiety and just those mindfulness coloring books, that can be really helpful to have in a calm down kit. Something like a worry stone, and this could be an activity where you actually go out with them on a walk somewhere and help them to find, like if you go to a river or something and find like a smooth river rock that they can use as a worry stone that they would just be able to rub when they're feeling upset and have that as something that they, are focusing on, like just trying to calm down and feel the feeling of that. Bubbles. That's a great one also. It's one that does help encourage them to be taking deep breaths and just stopping to breathe when they're feeling upset. And then also, there's so many different, online coping skills card packs or different you just cut it out basically and have like different ideas for coping skills. You could make a coping skill booklet, so besides just the physical things that are there in the calm down kit, they also have this list of what are other things that I can do if I'm feeling upset, and things you could put on there would be go for a walk, do yoga, which can be a great thing, do some kind of other exercise, or sing a favorite song, all of these different things that give them ideas for what are things that might help you to feel calmer when you're feeling upset. And then that way they've got a lot of options. So it's not just that, okay, you feel upset, you have to do this one thing, because that might sometimes just get frustrating for them, or it just doesn't feel like the right thing in the moment. But when they have choices for what they want to do when they're feeling upset, then they have more of a chance of finding something that's going to help them feel better. And the great thing about making a calm down kit is, again, it's a really fun thing for them to do as well. And let them be creative with it too. Let them think about what else would help me if I'm feeling upset. And then they can decorate the box. I recommend just using a shoe box for it, and you keep it somewhere close by so that as soon as they start to get upset, you bring it out to them. They have this physical thing in front of them that they're able to look at and think about, okay, how do I help myself in this situation? So those are the ideas for activities for helping kids to use coping skills. Things that I want to talk about just, for helping them as they are calming down. So there's sometimes situations that can be changed and sometimes situations that cannot. And so using coping skills for situations that can't be changed, the goal there is to just help them to calm down through the use of coping skills and, to continue to implement those as much as they need them. If it's a situation where things can be changed, that's where there's a next step of you helping them to figure out what it is that they can do to change the situation. And so that would be things like, if they're having trouble with somebody, or, if there's something going on that's upsetting them, I'm having a hard time thinking of stuff, but just anything that's something that they could make a difference in what's going on, then how do they do that? And that's where you walk them through it. And so, first of all, I think it's really important to encourage kids to learn how to ask for help. So for them to take that time to calm down and then say to you, I need help. And so for you to help them, think about okay, what is it that we can do to make this situation better, and to talk it through with them. And that does help establish, more trust in the relationship. It helps them feel secure. It helps them feel like you're there for them and you're in their corner and you care about what's going on. Helping them think of a plan. So that the app that I recommended last week, where it's Stop, Breathe, and Think. The think part is what comes in as this last piece. And so think about what it is that you can do. If there's a trouble at school, which, I understand right now people aren't going to school, obviously, but, if they're having trouble with somebody, then, think about what it is that they can do in those situations. If a friend is being mean to them, what can they do? They can go and talk to a teacher, or, they can tell the friend, hey, I don't think that's very nice, things like that. And so having them, think through a plan of how to handle a situation. And then that way they feel like not only are you there to help them, but there is a way that they can, make positive changes to whatever it is that's upsetting them. And they feel more confident. They feel empowered to handle, whatever their problems are. And then, that helps them with problem solving later on as well. They learn how to problem solve, and that's what you're helping them to do. You're helping them to calm down, and then you're helping them to problem solve. One last thing that I think is just, it's really simple, but it can be really great, is just, as a coping skill, telling them to ask for a hug if they need to, teaching them that they can ask for a hug. Sometimes that can be really calming for kids. They don't necessarily realize that, it's kind of that halt thing that we talked about, where it's hungry, angry, lonely, tired. Maybe they're feeling lonely and maybe a hug would help. And so, letting them know that that's an option, where they can just ask you if they can have a hug, and maybe that helps them feel calmer as well. So that's it for Coping Skills Part 2. I will be hosting the discussion group again on Wednesday at 3 p.m. The Zoom link is in the description of this video, and I look forward to talking with you. Bye.